Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Just let everybody file in and get settled in, and then we'll get started. I've been doing, as many of you know, I've been doing progress meetings this month. So I'm seeing some of you again for the second time this week. So it's nice to see you all again. For those of you who have had your progress meetings this week. And we'll introduce her later on, but I see we have our guest, Robin, here. Hi, Robin.
Hello, nice to be here.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
hmm
All right, let's see where we're at. All right, so as usual, we'll settle into the PLC. That'll give other folks who are running a little bit behind time to jump in, but we have enough people here to go ahead and get started. And as usual, the agenda's packed, so we gotta keep it going. All right, so welcome everyone. It's November. Can't believe it. The leaves are falling, the air is crisp. Raise your hand or your virtual hand if you recently had snowfall. I want to see what's going on in Michigan. Julie, I saw that hand up. I know a couple of my friends over in the Holland, Ottawa area got hit with some snow about a week or so ago. Yep, lots of hands going up. I have yet to see snow in my end of the world, but it is coming. All right. So today we'll connect on sharing what's working and tackling challenges together in our ECE wrap. So grab your coffee or your water if you're trying to stay super hydrated like I am and settle in. We're going to jump in, have some fun, and leave with some strategies that we can use to support our apprentices and our ECE employers. So we're going to do our agenda review. You can see that we have done our welcome, we're doing our agenda review, and we're going to use our learning objectives as a way to warm up for engagement. I mentioned we have our guest here, Robin Zeider. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. With my registry is going to be here to support us just on a check-in follow-up from our conversation last month. Help us walk through that. We have a couple technical assistance conversations that we want to have with you just from challenges and questions that have come up through progress meetings and over the course of the quarter. We have our connection activity. It'll be really familiar to you, new metaphor, but it'll be focused on leadership development. Then we'll have our call to action and get into our next steps, announcements, and closings. So does anybody have any questions about the agenda or anything that they want to bring up? Okay, and we will move into our next slide, which are our learning objectives. All right, so last month we introduced our learning objectives into our PLC conversation. And this month we're going to use our learning objectives as a way to get us warmed up for discussion and engagement. So in the spirit of collaboration, I want to ask for a few volunteers to read our learning objectives for us today. We're going to start with our red box. So who would like to go first? I'd love for one of you to come off of mute and read the red box for us, please.
Recall best practices and implementation considerations when evaluating ECE wrap occupation needs.
Thank you, Beth, so much. All right, and we're going to move to our second learning objective, which is in this kind of tan brown box. Who would like to come off of mute for us?
I'll do it, Nicole.
Thank you.
So discuss how to support ECE employers and apprentices with upskilling goals.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. And for our final learning objective, it's in the green box at the bottom. Who's going to read that for us? Don't be shy.
Okay, I'll just finish it out, Nicole.
Yes, thank you.
Discuss how to create or modify leadership-focused occupations to align with best practices.
All right. Thank you again, Evelyn. I appreciate your leadership on that. And thank you for reading those out loud. So these are the learning objectives we're going to have in mind for ourselves as we move through the PLC today. Does anybody have any questions? All right, great. We're going to go ahead and keep moving forward. So we're gonna jump right into this My Registry conversation. And before I introduce our guest, I just want to give you all a quick reminder of what this conversation looked like on our slides last month. So you might remember this visual, this one, this one. We were kind of gauging your understanding of these kind of working components of My Registry and how you felt in being able to communicate what they were, how they operated to others. And we have, you might have seen it on one of these slides, the kind of data from that conversation that we had last month. And we'll get into that in just a second. But I do want to take the opportunity now to introduce our guest, Robin Zeider from MyLeap, who's a professional development specialist and is going to be our expert My Registry person here with us on the PLC as we revisit this conversation. So I just want to go ahead and introduce you now, Robin. If you'd like to come off of mute and say anything, you're more than welcome to.
Sure. Great to be here. And when you sent this to me, Nicole, I was like, yep, that's a picture of me. That's fine. I have a slightly new job, and the only relevant piece to that is that I now am not a team of one. I actually am a team of three, which is kind of exciting. So we'll take that as a win. But I am the program manager. So I do work in MyLeap. I manage our professional development and outreach section. And I'm the contractor, the program manager for My Registry. So that is why I have the honor of being here to talk with you about some of the My Registry things that you had as questions.
Wonderful. And thank you for that update. And you can see on this slide that we have Robin's email and Robin has offered, to be a contact and her team to be a contact for you all with any questions that you have. So we just want to make sure that we share that with you now. So before we invite Robin to help us make sense of My Registry, just want to share this next slide with you. And so, a lot of times we ask you to engage with emojis in the chat, which may seem silly, but we always talk about, fill it out this way so that we can categorize it later. Well, this is an end result of what some of that categorization looks like. And this chart is really just helping us understand what you understood and what you didn't understand. And so what we learned was that there was a lot to learn still. And we thought, who better than to bring, the people that are responsible for operating My Registry to come in and be a part of this conversation with us. So after we kind of re-walk through those slides again today for each of those components of My Registry, we're going to just recheck where you're feeling on this. Like, do you understand it better now? We'll do kind of another chat engagement like we did last time. And that way we kind of have a pre and post to see if this conversation that we had was effective and if there's any more digging in that we need to do. So with that being said, Robin, I have those 3 slides that I showed, and then I was thinking that we would just go through each of them briefly, and you could give your version of what each of those components does, and then we'll kind of see where everybody's at. How does that sound?
That is okay. I did do a quick PowerPoint that
Okay.
has those 3 slides, but if you want to just, or similar slides with updates to them, but it's up to you. Do you want me?
No, I will have you share your slides. So I'm going to go
Okay.
ahead and stop sharing right now, and you should be able to pull your slides up.
Okay, so let me go share. And I had prepared a couple foundational pieces, but if we only want to focus on the 3, that's okay too. What's your preference? I know I had like 8 or 9 minutes.
Yep, go ahead and share what you have.
Okay. So might you be seeing, whoops, if I can get to slideshow. Might you
Yes,
be seeing the slides?
we sure do.
Okay, So I also added my email just in case. And certainly I know Nicole will share it with you again, or we can put it in the chat. But I thought it would be helpful just to remind people that the registry is a workforce data system and that individuals, trainers, organizations, they all use this and they all have data that is part of this. And so and it's a huge system, and I sometimes forget that because it's relatively new as things go. And just the who, remember or not remember, for some of you, this might be completely new, but individuals across the field, both early childhood and out of school time, use the registry. They can be at student level. We have college students, we have career tech ed students, we have those seeking employment, those that are employed, and they can be attached, and most are, to a licensed program, but that is not a requirement. We really look at the audience as being broader than just those that are attached to licensed programs, either home-based or center-based, but that is the largest audience, let's say. There's a role for trainers that become approved and deliver approved content in the registry. They are often attached to training sponsor organizations, which is one of the things that was a opportunity to share some insight or some information around. And then we also have organizations, and there's a presence of organizations in the system, in that licensed programs have their own organizational program profile. Training sponsor organizations have their own their own organization profile. Those that support the field, like a Head Start agency or a resource center, or an intermediate school district, or again, a training provider, they all have a place or a role in the system. And just for sort of scope, we have over 200,000 accounts in the registry right now, but I like to think about the ones that are active, which means that they have interacted with their account, either to update an employment record or to take a training, that sort of is more indicative of the fact that they're utilizing that account and that they haven't left the field of early childhood or out of school time. So over 134,000 active accounts in the system. We have over 2,000 trainers that are approved in the system. And then right now, or as of yesterday, when I pulled up the statewide training calendar, there were 5,443 public training events. That would not include those things that maybe a program's offering internally to their staff and managing attendance in the system. But the greater population could not register and complete that. But again, so this system has really grown from its inception in 2018. I'm not going to go through all of these, but because all of the things that I was asked to talk about sort of fall into that professionalism bucket, the registry has many, many, many reasons for sort of why it's important, if you will, but professionalism is definitely one of them. So as you're working with apprentices that are part of this field, we want them to see themselves as part of a profession where competency and qualifications matter. And we also want to have them see themselves as part of the field and looking at what those roles are that they might be interested in. Again, I'll focus simply on the professional piece, but I just want to put a little plug in there for the workforce data. Right now, we have a wage initiative that's starting. We utilized information in the registry to help inform that particular initiative. So having the data on our workforce is really important, and my registry allows us to do that. Okay, so as I said, part of a profession, we want anyone and everyone that is in doing this work, supporting children, youth, and families, to feel that sense of professionalism. And the registry allows an individual to have what I would call a professional portfolio online. And it allows them, it's theirs, it moves with them from place to place. Career Pathway, the registry actually started in 2018 and launched the Career Pathway at that time. And individuals that submit information about their qualifications have that verified in the system, and they receive what we would call a Career Pathway placement. We've now expanded that Career Pathway placement to really include a career exploration tool. And I'll talk to you about that a little bit more in a moment. And as I said, online portfolio and learning record, which was the second item. So career pathway, learning record, and training sponsor org were the three big things that I was bringing to our discussion or our group today. So the learning record we'll talk about, and we're going to add another piece to that too, which is a CDA report that each individual has too that can help them track where they are in terms of that content to support their CDA. We also have a youth development credential as well, and a report that aligns to that as well. And then professional development, I mentioned the number of opportunities that exist and the number of approved trainers that we have in the registry as approved trainers delivering approved content to the field. Okay, so here's the beautiful, and it's not super beautiful because it's become a very wordy document. And I think that we will, now that we've created this career exploration tool, look at ways to rely less on a document that someone might print, not prevent, and look more to, again, how that lives in a web-based application. But you'll see this starts with what we call foundational levels and moves through professional levels. The bold yellow is where registered apprenticeship completion, along with the credential either of the CDA or the MyYDA, the associates, the bachelor's, the master's. It's sort of a step above that credential level that's tied to it. And so someone that is completing their registered apprenticeship would submit through membership that certificate, and that would be recognized on their profile and an opportunity to give them, again, that career pathway placement level. The piece that is also part of our career pathway document is what we call the possible career opportunities. And I think with new licensing rules and the expansion of this career exploration tool, you will see this sort of broaden, but this is sort of a, if I am at P1, or if I am at P2, or if I'm headed towards P3, what roles might I be interested in that align from a qualification standpoint, kind of that initial education or credential qualification? What might I be able to do with that professional level or that foundational level? And then, sort of piggybacking with the career pathway, is this career exploration tool. And your heads are all in front of my QR code. So hopefully I'm not in front of your QR code, but there's a QR code on the bottom of this screen. This tool was launched in August. It brings the career pathway and what we call the Michigan Career Directory for Early Childhood. We're working on an out of school time accompanying guide. It brings them sort of to life in a way that you can actually take a self-assessment and see kind of fit for field. You can see whether you're someone that might be more interested in supporting those that support those who work directly with children and families. Or are you interested in a role where you work directly with children and families? Then there's a whole role piece that explains the role and the qualification. Again, kind of bringing that career pathway document to life as someone might be plotting out where they want to be. And then it has a whole series of financial supports or resources stored in one page, one place where someone can go. It's completely free. You don't have to utilize the registry in any way to access the career exploration tool. So I would encourage you to become familiar with that because we are incredibly excited about it. We have 9 stories from the field right now that are laced into this career tool, where it talks about individuals that are actually doing the role. Maybe I've always wanted state-funded pre-K. I've heard all of this, talk about pre-K for all. I'd really love to know more about what it takes to be a pre-K teacher or an associate teacher. And we have individuals that actually, as I said, are doing that role right now and sharing their personal pathway to how they got there. We'll continue to build that. Featuring an apprentice or more than one apprentice is on our radar. So that will likely be something you'll see relatively soon. We just did an event 2 weeks ago where there were some panelists who were phenomenal and may start with featuring them. There's also a place to give feedback. So if you know of someone or you have information that you think would be great to include in this tool, happy to have you submit that through the feedback form. Okay, again, being cognizant of time because I could talk forever about all these things. Learning record was the second thing. And this is a current learning record in the system. And this particular person, again, if you think about that online portfolio, an individual in the registry, whether they're at the create an account level or whether they've submitted credentials or formalized education to the system, they all have learning records. And so in this case, this is a person that has his or her CPR and first aid verified in the system. If they were to have a CDA or an AA or some college, that would also be verified in this area. But it also tracks their employment history. So as we look at positions where licensing is saying, if you have X experience with this credential, you qualify. If you have more experience and less credentials, this is your pathway to qualifying. This is a great way to track experience in the field to support those types of things. It also helps us from a retention standpoint. How long are people staying in the field? Are they moving to different positions in the field? But as you have apprentices who are doing their earn while they learn experiences, hopefully they are tied to their employer and their employment histories being tracked. Kind of the second and subsequent pages take all content that that the individual completes in my registry, meaning it's an approved course in the system and attendance is verified by the trainer or the training sponsor. It lives again in this document and it's aligned to the standards and competencies either on the early childhood side, if that's the content they're pursuing, or on the out of school time or youth development side. So there's a running record and it shares at the bottom their hours in each of the content areas. In addition, those content areas are aligned to the CDA content areas or the MyYDA if they're pursuing that credential. So I said I was going to sort of bring another thing in. Every person, again, with an account has a reports tab. And if they've taken professional development in my registry, they would have content on their reports. This is a CDA report and it helps support, the registry is a gold seal, CDA Council approved transcript and registry. So this allows people that are part of the registry, their professional development specialist can actually use this as their training record without needing to see certificates or other pieces. But this tool is very helpful based on the way courses are in the system. Sometimes it's important to give a little bit more information about that course so that if it's been tagged infant, but it might be infant and toddler, there's some ability to adjust kind of those hour pieces. But in essence, the individual can manage, maybe they start their apprenticeship and an unforeseen circumstance happens and they're not able to finish. We see this happen with CTE students. Maybe they graduate without the credential, but they want to continue. By having that content in the registry, they can start and stop and add on and continue their pathway to whatever that goal might have been. My dog is barking really loudly right now, so. Okay, I feel like I'm moving really quickly, but there'll certainly be time for questions. The next or the third piece is that trainer sponsor organizations. So organizations that provide professional development to support the workforce are training sponsor organizations. And I did not pull the number of how many organizations we have in the system right now. But knowing that we have 2,000 trainers, my guess is we probably have 700 because you can be an individual trainer and not be attached, to an organization, so to speak. You might be. But all of that to say, to become a training sponsor organization, there needs to be one approved trainer on site. Doesn't mean that that trainer has to be doing the administrative functions like submitting the course for approval, scheduling the event, which is the time that the training is offered, and managing the attendance, which is really critical in the system. But as a training sponsor, I am responsible for submitting courses and content through the system. And I do that by aligning it to the body of standards that we have said early childhood individuals should know and be able to do in their work, or out of school time professionals should know and be able to do in their work. So they're aligned at sort of that content area, very similar to the CDA subject area, which might be more familiar language for you. And those are approved. And then an event can be scheduled and attendance can be managed. People have the choice as a training sponsor to post public events, which means anyone could access and attend that particular PD offering, or this can all be done privately, meaning I know that I have a certain group of individuals that I'm providing PD for. I do not have the option to have others join or participate in that particular PD, but I'm still giving that individual or that participant the opportunity to receive credit for that. And again, to have it be part of their portfolio, have it be something that they can say, I got an infant and toddler CDA, and now I want to get the birth to 5 CDA, or I want to get the preschool CDA. They don't lose all of the content that they have taken because it is actually part of the system and it stays with them. They move from program A to program B, they attach through employment, and they have, again, all of that information about themselves. So that was a lot of words very quickly, and I think that was the last. Oh, no, that was not the last slide. So as we think about how you might become a training sport sponsor organization, I wanted to show you just what my registry site looks like in terms of resources. This is the actual drop-down organization resources, and this yellow box gives you training sponsor org information. I also want to highlight the career exploration tool has its own tab, which again, the career pathways built into it. So I will pause and begin to see what the thoughts, wonderings, and connections might be as I whipped right through all things my registry.
Yeah, and we have time for 1 or 2 questions. You're more than welcome to come off of mute, or if you want to add your questions into the chat, we always have the opportunity for follow-up too. So if there's anybody that wants to come off of mute, please do so now.
So Nicole, I have a question.
Sure.
So, Robin, is the individual the only person that will have access to their learning record? So can you
That is
clarify?
Yep, that is an excellent, excellent question. So the individual has access to all of their reports, and the learning record is a report. By creating an employment record with an agency, say I work at ABC Early Childhood Program, by creating that employment record, my employer can also see my credentials and my content that I have completed, as can licensing. So when someone actually creates an account in the registry, there's a terms of agreement document that talks about Great Start to Quality, licensing, and employer access. So yes, others can see that information. Licensing consultants can review individuals' records, as can Great Start to Quality is fed by information in the registry in terms of qualifications and professional development. And that program director, if that individual creates that employment relationship by adding their employment record, the employer verifies it, and they actually have access to what's called a staff report with a highlight of that individual's credentials and experience in the field.
Okay.
Now, outside, someone could not. Like if ABC Childcare knew my neighbor down the street was in the registry, I would not be able to see that information.
Okay, so here's my follow-up question just to
Sure.
make sure I understand. So as an intermediary, what would be, I guess, twofold? What would be the value in me joining my registry, or will I be able to, as a member, would I be able to view, say, the organizations that fall under my intermediary? That's my last question.
So, and again, your language may not be language that I'm as familiar with. So, as the intermediary, are you directly working with apprentices?
So I am working directly with the employer and
With the
yes, has a business relationship with the apprentice. So an example would be, what if I wanted to go and update their classes in workhand? Do I have to go through the employer or the apprentice to get that information? Or if I became a member, would I have access to it?
So if you, so there is a relationship if, for example, those employer organizations could give you access to their account, their as an admin on
Mhm.
their org, and then you would have access to more, sadly, than just the apprentices. Um, if you are you as an intermediary, are you providing some of that instruction or training as well? No. Okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I am just, one of my responsibilities would be to go in and to update their information because we're admin, so we're doing the admin piece. So I would go in and update when they completed classes or something like that.
Okay. So if you are, so that would come through the course or the training being in the system, and that would happen as a training sponsor. So if you know that information, that would be done. You would have to have, unless I'm misunderstanding, and that is possible. If you're aware of completion, it's not because you're delivering it, they're telling you about it, and you want to make sure that it's in the registry that they've completed this particular content?
Yeah. So Robin, I don't want to take up all the
Okay.
time, but you have indirectly answered my
Oh, okay.
question,
Okay.
and I know where to go and to get some additional information. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Evelyn, thank you for your question and thank you for seeking clarification. And I think we might have answered one of the questions that popped up from Beth, which is should we as apprentice providers be registered as training providers? Um, and I feel like that question might have got answered. Beth, do you feel like it got answered?
Well, I kind of feel like Focus Hope might be in there as a training provider because we do customer service training for our apprentices, but then we're also overseeing the whole apprenticeship. So I don't know how that fits in. And we also have a child care center. So I think we maybe need to be in there in multiple categories.
And you could be, or you could be offering anything that's professional development related out of your Focus Hope organization. Just for comparison, maybe, so a CTE teacher, a career tech ed teacher with students that are working on their credential, they put their coursework from their actual class that those students are getting into the system, and then they give credit to them. And I feel like apprentices, and some of their content may be coming from the system. I don't know. I think the model, the beauty of the model is it's not the same everywhere, right? But if there is a way to support that apprentice with having evidence of the content that they're getting, and the experience that they're getting. I'm assuming that they're, completely tied to their employer through an employment record because that employer is going to be asked about from licensing, who are the staff that you have, and an apprentice would be a person in that role. But again, we want to support people with having the evidence of all the stuff, right? Everything that they've done that makes them invaluable. And apprentices have all of those hours of work and typically more content than what's needed for a CDA. AA, I don't know, if they receive more than, what is normal for AA content, but I just, to me, it is a great opportunity to really recognize this group that is really pursuing this pathway in a way that has value added. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to keep moving along. We're not quite done with this conversation yet. Like I said, we're going to do kind of a post check-in to see now where we're at with this, given this new information. So I will pull that up in just a second. But I also just want to say, when we talk about credit bearing RTI, we're typically thinking about transfer credits into academic institutions, but also our apprentices are required to have credit in my registry for trainings that they're doing. And so you could also think of my registry as a way for having your RTI be getting credit for the work that they're doing. And so I think there's a lot to dive into here. But you have a contact now with Robin. We're continuously trying to think about this overlap. And hopefully, we've moved the needle a little bit on where we're at with our understanding with my
Hopefully
registry.
not more cloudiness. And I
Yeah.
apologize. That's where you landed.
But that's okay. It is what it is. So I'm gonna pull this up right now. And we are going to do a little chat check-in. So if you could plan on using one of these emojis or this little note here when we prompt you, that would be great. I'm going to make sure that I'm popping into the chat um, these categories so that I can categorize them later. So let me just write into the chat here first. The first thing that we're going to see where you're at on is the career pathway. So I'm just going to type that into the chat now so that your answers are categorized. And so let us know. Use one of these emojis or these little notes to let us know how you're feeling about the My Registry career pathway, please. And we'll just keep digging in further. Still more questions, which is great. We want to hear from everybody, so be sure to share. If you can't find the emoji, just type it in. And, also be thinking, what specific questions do you have? Like, okay, maybe your question is, I should just need to learn more. Like, this has more to it than what I thought it did. So just mark that down because we will be following up. All right, so we're going to keep moving. So the next one is going to be the learning record. And so I'm just going to go ahead and type that in right now so we can categorize it. Let us know how you're feeling about the learning record, please, in the chat. Thank you, everybody. Give you another second or two. And then we'll do our final one. See if we've got, looks like we're doing pretty good there. Okay, so then our final is going to be the training sponsor organization. And in the chat, I'm just going to type the acronym, which is TSO. And I'm going to move our slide forward. Let us know how you're feeling about TSOs. Still lots of questions, still more learning to do. We have some understanding happening here, so that's great. And I've heard you all say many times, that a lot of times your employers are coming to you to ask questions about the CDA or navigating these things. And so just digging into this and really understanding it is going to be an important tool for supporting your employers. All right. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get that down there. Thank you all so much for sharing. And we will definitely have my registry follow up. Just want to go ahead and Robin, sorry about the title there, but just share Robin's email with you all one more time. You know that you have a direct contact now to be able to explore this, ask questions, and we know what's important. All right. So thank you, Robin, so
You're
much. You're
welcome.
more than welcome to stay. We're going to move on to the next part of the PLC.
I am going to sign off. It was a pleasure, and I'm going to take that I can explain it now is a really high threshold, and it's okay if you can't explain it.
Okay. Absolutely.
And it's not none of those things are particularly simple. So thanks for having me. And again, feel happy feel happy. Feel more than willing to reach out if you have questions or specific things or TA session with the team. Perfectly fine. So have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Robin.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so that kind of wrapped up one section of our PLC today. We're going to jump into the next section, which is focused on technical assistance check-ins. And in this part of the PLC, we have three kind of touch points that we want to have with you. One is going to be focused on this weird little thing that's cropped up with PEOs or professional employer organizations, but then there's also the staffing agency component with it. So we want to talk really quickly and interact with you on that, again, using the chat. And then after that, we're going to, hold on one second. Yes, then after, sorry, I got a little bit lost in my slides. Then after that, we're going to do some follow-up on the quarterly report. There were a couple questions that we inadvertently left off of that quarterly report, so we just want to get some feedback from you on those. And then finally, we're going to do a check-in on leadership pipeline development. And so that is what we're going to move into now. All right, so here is our first TA check-in that we want to have with you. So it's been brought to our attention for a little while now. I remember having the conversation several months ago around PEOs or professional employer organizations. And then just recently, there was this kind of staffing agency challenge that kind of merged together with that conversation. And I think what we want to find out today is, are you having experiences with challenge A? Are you having experiences with challenge B? Or are you having experiences with both? And so what we want to do is, and Sable, if you could go ahead and put these into the chat, that would be great. We would love for you to react to these challenges. We want you to use these emojis or these statements to let us know if you've had experience with challenge A, challenge B. If you have had experiences with both of them, but no challenges, hey, we want to know that. And if you have not had any experiences with staffing agencies or PEOs, let us know that too. We're trying to gauge the kind of breadth of this problem, and we're also trying to understand it more directly. So your feedback on that is going to be very helpful. And thank you, Sable, for putting that in the chat. Looks like we have some people that are saying, nope, not us. And then looks like we've got the PEO challenge happening. Both A and B for Great Lakes Bay. B, no challenges. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. And we'll always have follow-up on this. These are just little quick check-ins for us to help us understand where we should go. Okay, thank you all for that. We are going to pop in. Let me just check the chat here, make sure we don't have a question. Okay, thank you, Kevin. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next check-in, which is going to be around our quarterly report follow-up. And so for this check-in, we're going to step outside of the chat. We're going to use a new tool. I've never used it before. It seems pretty simple, called Slido. And I'm going to walk us through that. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create a word cloud together based off of a couple prompts. So let me just run us through this right now. So if you haven't used Slido before, it's simple and you have options. You can either type in slido.com into your URL bar on your computer, or you can use your phone to engage with a QR code, and I'll pull that up shortly. So on this slide, what I want to do is just walk us through what it looks like if you're using the tool on your computer. And if you plan on using the QR code, it'll be on the next screen that I share. So just looking at here, we've got step 1, step 2, step 3. If you're going to use your computer, you'll go to slido.com. And on the step one, you're just going to be met with this joining as a participant, enter code here. And you will enter that code in that bar. And I'm going to share that code with you shortly. It is also down here on step two, where you see 2681212. And so once you enter that code there, you should be brought to that screen. If you're not, for me, there was this little box here down below where it says step two. I was able to click on that and it brought me to the correct screen. And then you can see step three here. You will be asked questions and you can enter a word or a short phrase. That's how it works best. And then hit send. You can do more than one response, and I encourage you to. So just kind of think about that. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of this screen here. I'm going to pull up a different screen, really demonstrating my digital literacy skills today. One second. All right, we got it. All right. Okay, so here's that QR code if you wanted to interact with it on your phone. Otherwise, you can see below here it says join at slido.com and it gives you the number. So I'm going to give us just all a little second to settle in and figure this out. And I would love to get a thumbs up, maybe a Zoom thumbs up from you when you're ready. I don't want to move forward if somebody's stuck. All right, Karen, thank you. And Karen, if you're ready or anybody else who is ready, you can go ahead and start to answer this question. And like I said, you can give more than one response, and I encourage you to. Evelyn, Robin, thank you. Beth, you're going? Great. So go ahead and get started with this. Give you a little bit of time here to answer the first question. And our ideas are starting to populate, and you can see them as they are populating. Great. I still see a couple participants typing, so we're going to let that happen before we move on to the next slide. Awesome. Looks like oh, we got one more. Great. So this is wonderful, right? Because we're just grouping all of our answers together. This will be an easy way to share this out. And you can kind of like, oh, we do this, or oh, we need to do more of this. And you can see that this many work for the same employer is an idea that more than one of you have shared. And so it makes the word larger. So that helps us figure out where you're all at and what some overlap may be. Wonderful. All right, we're going to go to our next question. Hopefully. Hey, there we go. All right, our next question is what non-academic wraparound supports has your ECE wrap provided to ECE apprentices? So non-academic supports. I hear laptops a lot and gas cards and bus passes. Those are already big. Gift cards for groceries. I feel like laptops is going to be very big. And Kevin's typing in the chat, CDA and tuition. We'll make sure we add that to our word cloud if it's not already on there. Thank you, Kevin. Got a couple more people typing before we move on to our last question. Auto repair and laptops. I'm not surprised by that. That's what I'm hearing from you guys a lot there. Oh, also this idea of we have money but have not had requests yet, which also doesn't surprise me. Sometimes we early childhood providers, we've been working with breadcrumbs for so long, we just don't even know how to ask for what it is we need. All right, thank you all. I got one more person typing in, so give them a chance to do that. There we go. And that was assistance with driver's license. Thanks. All right, I'm going to move to the last question. And that is, how is your ECE rep working with regional childcare employers to understand and respond to their current and forecasted workforce credentialing needs for early educators? So how are you understanding the needs of your childcare employers regionally? We got some people typing in. Oh, I love, one thing I do love about this feature is it shows who's typing and who's not. It's so nice as a facilitator to know that something's actually happening. Surveys, intending to have these conversations, asking them through those relationships that I know a lot of you all are talking about in your progress meetings and are so important. Got a few more people getting ready to type in. Race to talent events, regional childcare employers. Do we have any? Oh, also, that also could just mean the childcare employers across the region. Maybe I didn't do a great job with saying that exactly. But I have heard, I'm not sure in your specific region, but I do know of some employers who have maybe several locations, and I would consider them that regional. One more participant typing in. All right, and it looks like we're done. All right, well, thank you all for that. Again, today is just a check-in on some of these topics, and we'll have follow-up with you. And of course, we'll have these slides to be able to share with you too, in case they inspire you in your work. So I'm going to stop sharing that slide and move on to the next one. So we're going to go ahead and discuss the leadership pipeline development. And I just need to get to the right tool here. Again, with these digital literacy skills. All right, we're on this slide. All right, so we're going to do another check-in, and you know we love using the chat, so we're going to go ahead and do that again. And you've got your instructions on the slide here. These are the emojis or the statements that we're going to go ahead and make in the chat. I'm going to just type in leadership pipeline into the chat so that I can categorize these things later. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions and I want you to respond. So here's the first one. Have you identified a need for stronger leadership or management roles like the operations manager in your apprenticeship or workforce development? I also need to work on that language there. That didn't make entirely amount of sense. But if you could go ahead and pop that in the chat and let us know if this is something that you've been hearing about. Yes or no? No's, yeses. I know it's going to kind of be all over the place a little bit. Leadership could be entrepreneurship, business ownership. You could think about leadership as even lead teachers. Has there been director turnover in your programs? They might not be saying that they need leadership development, but if they're having turnover with their director, that kind of upends a lot of things in a childcare program. So that would be a need for leadership development. Thank you all for responding there. Wonderful. We're going to move on to the next one and use the the same thing here. And actually, what I just realized is I need to do something too. This, I'm going to type Q2 into the chat just so I can organize them. And here's our next question. Are you currently supporting apprentices and moving towards leadership roles? And let's think broadly about that. You know, it doesn't have to be specific occupation, but in your RTI, is there leadership development happening there? That's a yeses. Love to hear it. Exploring the possibility. Thank you. Thank you. See if we got any more responses. We're starting and exploring. I love that little emoji. It's so cute. All right, we're going to move to Q3. We are working on this with mentors too. Absolutely. All right, Q3, and I'm going to move us forward. So does your related RTI include any leadership management, entrepreneur, or operations focused content? So just getting a little bit more specific into what's being offered here. So go ahead and give us some feedback in the chat. And we appreciate it all. And just like we did with the My Registry, we'll put all this together and something that we can look at visually, and it'll just give us more direction on where we need to go with our PLCs and what other conversations we can be having. And I appreciate what you all are writing in here. Our operations manager occupation will have it. The 1 year option has, the 1 year has it as an option. Wonderful. All right, I'm gonna move to our next question. And oh, let me put a little Q4 in there, or I'm gonna be mad at myself later. And the question is, are mentors in your program intentionally helping apprentices build leadership skills? And all answers are great answers because they help us understand. Hope so. Well, you're funny. Yep, and I hope so is a great answer too. It seems like they should be. Love that. We love the I hope so answers. I apologize. Also, I want to say I've got some type of lawn equipment happening outside my window. I hope you all can't hear that. Any more responses in the chat? Okay, we're going to go to Q5. And the next question is there interest among your partners to explore leadership-focused occupations in the future? Let us know what you're hearing. Whether it's directly or indirectly. Do they want to grow in the field? Do they want their employees? Do they want to support their employees' growth and development? I think that says that there's interest. We're ready to input our operations manager, director occupation soon. Exciting. All right, and then our last question before we move on from the TA section of our PLC. So I'm gonna just put in here Q6 and move us forward. And that is, are you assessing what's working when adding apprenticeship occupations? So you've added the occupation. Are you doing some type of assessment of what works in it, what doesn't work in it? Let us know. Great, great, great. Thank you for the responses. I'll give, of course. Love it. I'll see if there's anybody else who's wanting to respond before we go ahead and move to the next one. I'm going to check on our time here. How we're doing. Doing great. All right. Yes, but not a formal assessment. That's okay. Sometimes just having the conversation is all it takes. All right, you all. Thank you so much. This chat is very rich today and is going to give us a lot to dig into and develop our future conversations together. So we really, really appreciate it. And again, I'm going to apologize for the leaf blower that's outside my window. All right, we're going to go ahead and move to the next portion of our PLC. So this must look familiar, right? We use these metaphor activities pretty regularly to kind of start parsing out ideas and thinking about our work more deeply. And we're doing it again today because it's been working really well and it's fun. So this is our connection activity. We're calling it Weaving an ECE Leadership Web. So I'm just going to kind of go through the instructions here as I have them written out. So you might notice that we're taking a similar approach to today's discussion as we previously had in large group discussions. In this conversation, we'll think differently about building strong leadership pipelines in ECE using this creative, reflective lens. Today, we'll use the metaphor of a web to explore and elevate the strategies that support high quality leadership pipeline development. And just like in a web, each thread and connection plays a unique role. When all the threads are strong and linked, the workforce is able to practice resilience, adaptability, and ready to grow future leaders. So on the next slide, you'll see that our web is empty. Each section is waiting to be filled with the strategies you use or want to strengthen, or maybe want to use in the future. We can do some futurism here too. I'm open to that. We'll build this web together using the ideas and examples, which you'll share in the chat using these emojis that we have listed here, so we know how to categorize them. And then I'll capture what's happening in the chat in live notes as we go, and we'll create this collective map of best practices. So this is how we're going to categorize our responses. And on the next slide, Sable is going to put this in the chat so you have it for reference also, and you'll be able to find it in the next slide as well. Hopefully not too small, but if it is, you'll have it in the chat. So we'll have our core threads. So this is going to be this spool of yarn here that is foundational practices for leadership pipelines. So we want you to reflect on what practices ensure you consistently identify and prepare apprenticeship for leadership roles. And if you're not doing it yet, that's okay. You can just think about it in what maybe you would like to do or what you've experienced in your own experience in growing as leaders. The next one is going to be linking strands, and that is going to be practices that assess and strengthen the quality of RTI. And what we want you to reflect on is how do you assess RTI implementation to strengthen apprentices' skills and prepare them for leadership roles. And then finally, we have our little puzzle piece here, and these are going to be custom connections. So these are creative and individualized strategies. We want you to reflect on what innovative or tailored strategies do you use to meet the unique learning and growth needs of apprentices as they upskill into leadership. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get us ready for live notes. So I'm going to come off of this share and bring up a different screen. While I'm doing that, you may want to find these emojis in the chat. You might also want to be kind of jotting down ideas or brainstorming right now. Let me see where I'm at in time. We're doing great on time. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes or so to do some brainstorming and really think on your own. So go ahead and do that now. Sable has placed these instructions in the chat. So yeah, so we're just going to take some time to brainstorm right now while I get my screens all moved around. So go ahead and take that time, and I will give us, like I said, about 5 minutes. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask. Also, just want to share, it sounds like we might be having a little bit of trouble with the puzzle piece emoji, also then turning into the sun. If that is happening for you, no worries. We will just know that the puzzle equals the sun also. All right, we're at the 2 minute marker. I know we usually don't have this much time, but we have more time today. You're more than, I mean, if you're ready to start putting some things in the chat, you're more than welcome to. You'll want to do your emoji and then whatever the practice is that you're responding to. So the emoji helps us categorize. And then in about a minute and a half, I'll pull up live notes and we'll start having a conversation about it. All right, we're winding down on time. Got a couple more seconds or so. I'm going to pull up our live notes, get that ready. Hopefully you can see them today. Sometimes I make them too small. Um, and then I'm also going to be managing the chat. So, oh, and I see Beth mentioned we are not focusing on building leadership skills among apprentices, and that's okay because how about if you were, what would you do? Because we might be able to use this um, to elevate what we're currently doing or think about how we want to do things in the future. So we can come at it that way too. All right, so I can see that we're starting to have some items in the chat populate. So we're gonna go ahead and start having our conversation here, and then I'm just gonna do a time check because I'm not the best multitasker and I wanna make sure that I'm looking at this now. Okay, so we can go ahead and um, get talking about it, and we do have a good amount of time here too. So if anybody has any questions or is stuck, we can also kind of think through some of this as well. So feel free to come off of mute and just start talking because while I'm doing this, watching the chat and doing live notes, I'm not looking at your faces. So just this is going to be open discussion. If you'd like to come off of mute, feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and start with what Robin has shared. She shared a core thread, And it says we have in-person quarterly mentor apprentice check-ins where the mentor talks through the competencies and how the apprentice can go to the next level. And wouldn't it be great if I could copy paste this? Can I? Let me find out. Nope, doesn't look like it. So I'm gonna have to type it in. So monthly check-ins, mentor to apprentice, and I'll make these not so notey when I send them back out to you. They'll make a little bit more sense. Monthly check-in, mentor to apprentice, to discuss how to get to the next level. That was from Robin. Thank you, Robin. And let's see here, another one in the chat. Julie is saying, we encourage the employer and the mentor to work on and develop these skills. And Julie, which category should I put that in? You think that's a core thread, a linking strand, a custom connection?
I would say that it goes in all three.
Yeah.
It could very easily fit in any of the three categories.
Okay, lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I add them to all three. And I'm just going to say that the intermediary is encouraging the employer and the mentor to work on and develop these skills. And I'm just going to note here all three, and I will put them in all three later on. Thanks, Julie. All right, Beth, I'm just going to read this here. I feel like this would be a different apprenticeship than the one we offer, which is targeted toward people new in the field. Fair to say, right? It's like, hey, we're just getting them in here. Like maybe we don't want to also say what's next first. Totally fair. Totally fair. I mean, and in that regard too, let's just think about maybe what kind of leadership skills does somebody who's even entering into the field of early childhood need to have? Like as a baseline, maybe the leadership development isn't getting them ready for directorship or opening their own business, but is there leadership and initiative that we need in the classroom? Yeah, they need to be able to lead the classroom. So what kind of leadership development are we focusing on, putting into our wrap focused on that? All right, and so Robin has a linking strand for us, and that is we discuss RTI at our monthly employer and partner meetings. Maybe not every month, but that's kind of where it happens. So monthly discussions about RTI with employers and partners. Yeah, there we go. All right, what else do we have to share here? Okay, I recall there are things in the CDA focused on this, like classroom management, right? Yep. And classroom management, I would put it as a core thread. What do you all think? Do you feel like that's where it goes? What do you think, Beth? Oh, you got a thumbs up. Perfect. I was like, I'm not hearing anybody. Let me look at your faces and see what's happening. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the core thread here then. Classroom management. Oh, yes, that is not easy. And it's a skill. Oh, here's the sunrise we're getting. That means puzzle piece, right, Sable? Perfect. Okay, so that's that custom connection. And so Robin is saying working with SBDC on a people management course for operation managers. Robin, what's SBDC? What's SBDC?
Small Business Development Corp.
Okay. Working.
We have a coalition, and we have an SBDC person that is the ECIC SBDC person.
Perfect.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? And one of the things that came up as we're working on the operations manager was like we need people management skills. We think that the people taking this need people management, and there's nothing in my registry for people management. It's more like classroom management, that sort of thing. Um, so we're working with SBDC to maybe come up with like a people management course that will maybe eventually, I've met with Robin previously, will go into my registry.
Perfect. And I love that you're linking it to my registry, right? Because they need it to be in there. It's the only way it gets tracked with them officially in the state of Michigan. And so linking up to my registry, whatever's happening in your app, can be really helpful to the apprentice on a people management course for the OM occupation. All right. But we have extra time today because this takes extra time when I don't have somebody to read the chat for me. I've been spoiled. All right. So, Beth, we also do a customer service training. Sounds a little bit like the people management, right? Kind of in the same vein ish. Customer service training, which is designed to help apprentices with their interactions with parents and colleagues, etc. Right. Just because we are awesome at reading a book and doing curriculum doesn't mean we know how to interact with a parent who's having a very hard morning. And maybe you have to ask them to pay their tuition. There's all kinds of things there. I mean, that's real life. How do you do that? Do you avoid it? Nope, can't do that because then my boss is going to be upset with me. How do it's stressful. All right, so I'm gonna add that in there too. Beth, where do you think that belongs? Can you tell me?
Not really. Sorry.
What about as a group? Where do we think that belongs?
Probably belongs in the RTI
In the RTI.
area and a part of the RTI discussion.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that was Kevin. Couldn't see your face, but I remember your voice from the other day.
I was
Um,
thinking the custom connection too, maybe.
okay. Yep. I'll put it in there.
And
Um,
can I ask a question? Is that an in-person training or is it like through my registry?
The training is hybrid. It's an excellent curriculum. It's through a company called ITBA, and they have several other professional development courses as well. Just a thing, it meets the WIOA requirements, and we love it here at Focus Hope. It's baked into a lot of our programs. If soft skills had a credential, this is what it is.
mm, I love that. And it meets WIOA requirements. We love alignment, makes everything a little easier.
So
Um,
I wonder if maybe it's a core thread because, getting along with people on the job is kind of a core thing.
And you know what? That's the thing about this activity. Everything could go in everything, couldn't it? But at least it's getting us to think about it, and that is the whole point. So I'll make sure that I add it to core thread as well. And I'm just going to make a note for myself here. All right, let me get back into the chat and see if we have anything else to add. And if for some reason I've missed something, don't worry, we always go back through this. Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat right now. Let me just do a time check, see where we're at. We're doing pretty good. All right. Well, if there's nothing else that needs to be added or that you'd love to share, as always, this will come back out to you in the post PLC follow-up. And this is an activity that you can do on your own. I find that I know I've mentioned this before, but a lot of times we try to throw all the problems in one pot and then get frustrated that we can't figure it out. And so anytime we can kind of separate things out and think about them more categorically or more intentionally, it really helps to position whatever it is we're thinking about. So just want to offer that up as a tool in your planning and as you continue to develop your wraps. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. One, because my computer is doing something weird and hopefully it doesn't. Okay. All right, so I've stopped sharing. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our slides again. I'll share them again and we'll move on to the next part of our PLC, which is moving us into the end and getting us wrapped up. And share that again. Open the current slide and move to the next part of our PLC, which is our call to action. And you know how this goes, and we follow up. I've been following up on call to actions in our progress meetings, and I think that's been a good place to do it. You know, there's also going to be opportunity for you to give feedback and reflect in the post PLC survey in all of our PLCs. So that's also a place for you to share with us what you're doing with these call to actions. So this month's call to action is to think about one concrete way you will use today's discussion to support an apprentice's growth or strengthen leadership development in your program. And what would you commit to doing maybe even this month? And like I said, think about leadership broadly. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the occupation or the operation manager occupation. You could think about it as growth, this classroom management, this customer service piece, also entrepreneurship and business ownership for registered apprenticeships or apprentices in the future, because operating your own in-home childcare is a path on this career path as well. And I know I've started talking to some of you about that. We'll dive more deeply into it. But also the mentorship piece is leadership as well. And so just want you to think about this idea of leadership broadly as we continue to dive into the idea. All right, so we're going to go to our next slide. Which is next steps and announcements. So we will have our post PLC survey in the chat, and I think Sable went ahead and posted that in there for you. Thank you, Sable, and we'd love to have you fill that out. It is really helpful, and we use it in the development of all of our TA as we move forward. We have our November office hours next week on the 25th from 1 to 2 with yours truly. We'll see you there. And then we've been doing our progress meetings, as I mentioned in the beginning of the PLC, but we have a few more on tap also with me. You guys are going to get to know me really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who I haven't yet seen yet. I really do enjoy progress meetings. I just like digging in with you and hearing what you have to say. And then the only announcement that we have right now is that our December PLC, it's going to take place on December 11th. That may seem really quick, but that's also because it's the holiday season and we want to jump in and get this PLC, on the books before you're tapping out for the year. And you'll also know that this next PLC is a little bit shorter. So I just want to highlight that. I'm going to stop sharing now. And I will share with you, I know that we've been talking about contract extensions, etc. I don't have any official language for you yet that I can share, but I do know that they are working on that language. And so when we have that information, we'll make sure that we share it with you. It'd be really cool if I could put it in the post PLC follow-up email, but we'll see. I suspect you'll have something next week. But I can't imagine much later than the first week in December on that, because they are really trying to get that taken care of. So Thank you all so much for coming to the PLC. Really appreciate you all. And I'll go ahead and stay on since we have a little bit of time if anybody has any questions or wants to check in. But thank you all. You're free to go. Bye, Kevin.